Okay, good evening. Welcome to the regular meeting of the Eastchester Board of Fire Commissioners for January 12th, 2023. The time is now 7:01, I believe. Regular meeting of the Eastchester Board of Fire Commissioners is called to order. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Let's please stand to salute the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. All right, what we're going to do from 7 to 7:30 is we need to go into recess. So I'm making a motion to go into recess for legal advice. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, and we will join you back here at 7:30. Thank you. Welcome back. We are returning to public session. It's now 7:31, give or take. And we move now to the Treasury report. Jamie? Please.
Okay, so tonight we're looking at the financials through December 31st of 2022. They present a net budget surplus of approximately $820,000. This is predominantly driven by the appropriated fund balance of approximately $640,000 that we didn't use, and then the unanticipated Treasury direct interest earnings, which netted us $120,000 last year. At this time, this warrant report was done over a week ago, so there are additional December invoices that will need to be processed. So that number will change. At the next meeting, hopefully we'll have everything by December. We'll be in by then. We'll know what the final surplus was on the year. At that time, I'll recommend budget transfers because you will notice on the report that there are quite a lot of accounts where that specific line item went over budget. So we'll make the transfers to close out the year, and then we can discuss if there's any allocations we want to make with the remaining surplus. We have a chart here similar to what we've seen all year. This will be going into 2023. These are the purchases that were initiated in 2021 or 2022 that haven't been completed yet. I also earmarked the grant money that we were awarded for the archiving project, since that will be happening in 2023. So those will be brought into the 2023 budget. And let's see. As of today, we have $2.5 million in Treasury Direct. So we have brought this down quite a bit as we're getting, towards the end of the year. And now we won't get our next tax collection until May. Rates have increased to 4.2%. For year-end filings, we should be receiving our W-2s and 1095-Cs to provide to employees any day now. We're also putting together the 1099s for our vendors and any other payees where they're required. And I have been contacted by our auditors to begin the 2022 financial statement audit. They've already put together a list of requests. I don't know at this point when they'll be coming to conduct their on-site visit. I would anticipate probably sometime in February. And then on the last page, there's just a snapshot of our account balances as of year end. So these are the accounts as of December 30th. We have a balance of approximately $8.8 million. Of that, 1.1 is in the reserve for capital improvements. And as you know, we already have $760,000 of that is earmarked for the next phase of Chester Heights. We have our operating expenses to avoid a tax anticipation note is about $5.6 million. The $200,000 we just talked about, that's budget encumbrances to next year, which gives us a estimated unassigned balance of approximately $1.8 million. So again, once we have the final picture at next month's meeting, that's what I'm hoping for, we can talk about that unassigned balance if there is any desire. We obviously have the tower ladder purchase that we haven't finalized our either financing or how we want to pay for it. So that may be a source that we want to look at there, in addition to what we put into the budget, or just talking about increasing our reserves going forward. And that's it.
Questions?
Nope.
Thanks, Jamie.
Thank you.
Brings us to the chief.
Thank you, Commissioner. Good evening, everybody. Total alarm activity for December, 378 alarms, fire-related 9, EMS and rescue 223, and we gave mutual aid 5 times in December, once to Scarsdale, twice to New Rochelle Fire Department, once to Pelham, and once to Mount Vernon Fire Department. The total alarms for 2022 were 4,057. Total fire-related incidents, 85, and total EMS and rescue incidents for 2022, 2,225. The vehicle maintenance continues for the use of outside vendors. We're in the process of discussing possibly hiring a in-house mechanic, a part-time. That continues. Tim Dalton's weekly maintenance reports for December were emailed to the board on January 10th. And there are 2 quotes that were presented to the commissioners for generator repairs that are needed, one for Chester Heights for a fuel injector replacement for $6,606.62, and one for the Tucko Firehouse for a fuel filter and fuel filter housing replacement for $1,176.19. Both will be with our service company, GenServe. The motions are attached, and I asked the board to authorize me to have the repairs done by GenServe. I brought this up at last month's meeting, and we thought that we may have a mechanic on board within a few weeks. Unfortunately, it's taking longer than we hoped, so I would rather get the generator service so that they're good to go, as they are emergency firehouse generators. So I asked for the board to approve those 2 motions. Fire prevention and code enforcement activities continue with numerous plan reviews and inspections, and their fire prevention reports were emailed to the board on January 5th. Currently, we have 3 members out on long-term absence. The 4 probationary firefighters in the Fire Academy continue to do well and are scheduled to graduate on Wednesday, January 18th, 9:30 a.m. at Westchester Community College. The members will undergo orientation training until the week of January 30th, when they will go into their assigned 24-hour tours in the 4 groups. Assistant Chief Bruce Yazzo and Captain Dan Olivier's promotions took effect on January 1st, and they've hit the ground running, with Captain Olivier conducting the annual OSHA training for the members this week, and Assistant Chief Yazzo performing the daily schedules, and we just got his computer yesterday, so he's going to take over some of the other duties that I was performing. Lieutenant Castiello and D. Rienzo began their FDNY First Line Supervisor Training Program on Monday, January 9th. It's a 4-week program that concludes on February 3rd, and then Lieutenant Del Bracco and Lieutenant Greenbaum are scheduled to go to the next class, which begins on February 27th and runs through March 24th. This training program is required by New York State regulations for all fire officers. It's the First Line Supervisor Training. So we have lieutenants, so our lieutenants go when they get promoted. They're required to go within 18 months of promotion. Vinco Builders has advised there's just some final electrical work to be done, and then they'll have completed their phase of the Chester Heights construction project. And the B&B Contracting Group has requested a few changes to their agreement with the district, and hopefully that'll be addressed at this evening meeting, and they can begin the next phase of the construction, which at the Chester Heights Firehouse, which includes heating systems, ADA bathroom renovations and construction, and the installation of an ADA-compliant ramp at the entrance to the firehouse. That's the end of my report, Commissioner.
Thanks, Chief. All right, so that brings us to payment of bills. So the action is, be it resolved that the Board of Fire Commissioners approves to pay the bills and vouchers as presented. The board has been supplied with 1 set of bills and 1 credit card bill. Chief Tween has reviewed all prior to the meeting, except certiorari claims and those specifically marked as reviewed by the treasurer. The treasurer has requested the board approve the following. Warrant 1, dated 1/12/23 for $254,823.19. Credit card bill dated 1/18/23 for $2,583.03, for a total of $257,406.22. I'll make a motion. Can I get a second?
Second it.
I'll call the roll. Commissioner Sarasi?
Aye.
Commissioner Laurie?
Aye.
Commissioner Ranalone?
Aye.
Commissioner Keating?
No.
Commissioner Carlo?
Aye.
Motion carried.
This goes, now we go into our As the chief mentioned in his report, the B&B Construction Group project, a few changes that they want us to look at and to address, which we have. So I'll read a few of the changes to you, and then we can move forward with this document. First section was that the states that substantial completion is no later than 90 days from the commencement of the work. However, as we previously expressed during the bidding and pre-award meeting of the project, the HVAC equipment and boiler currently have a 6 to 7 month lead time from release. We cannot agree to 90-day schedule in this case, so we agreed then to allow them to schedule 60 days from the time the HVAC equipment and delivery is delivered to substantial completion of the project. So we all agreed on that one, on the board, I hope. The next is the establishing the unnecessary loan payment processing time. We approved the text read as follows: the period covered by each application for payment shall be 1 calendar month ending on the last day of the month, or as follows: the period covered by each application for payment shall coincide with the date of the application for payment and starting the date following the end of the preceding period. Very confusing. Bottom line is, we agreed to, the text is going to read as follows: the owner shall make payment of the certified amount to the contractor within 30 days of the acceptance of the application for payment by the engineer. So basically, as long as B&B submits their payment or submission invoicing to us, to the engineer for review and approval with enough time for us to perform these functions prior to our monthly board meeting, they will get paid within 30 days. We agreed to 45 days. They agreed to 45 days as well. We had to get that changed from 30 to 45, which I don't think will be an issue. But again, the issue is that they had a different time processing for application of payments based on when bills were presented. They agreed to present everything to us prior to the end of the previous month. So if they got a bill to us by January 31st, we meet on February 9th it is, for example. We approve the invoice and payment prior to our engineer approving the work and the payment as well. And it goes to Jamie, and we get it out before the end of the month of February. So I don't see it's going to be going past 30, but we asked for 45. That leaves us up to establishing the interest rate that would apply to payments that are past due. We wanted 3% per annum. They wanted, with the way things are nowadays, they want prime rate plus 1. We agreed to that, as opposed to, we agreed to prime rate plus 1 because we don't feel it's ever going to become an issue. If we were, for some reason, grossly late, 60 and 90 days, then of course we would then honor the prime rate plus 1, but we both agreed that we don't see that as being an issue, so we agreed to the prime rate plus 1. The section in the document about attorney's fees, well, they simply asked for us to use the word reasonable prior to the word attorney's fees, so we will insert that word in that section 16.2. We also talked about the builder's risk policy. This is not something that really they should be paying for, so then we agreed to take on that expense, which we understand is not much at all.
About $800.
$800. So it was agreed that B&B is not purchasing the builder's risk policy for this project. We will. Also, we talked about the right for performance bonding. Providing a performance and payment bond was not a requirement in the bid. Give me a second. We said that it was in the contract. However, we agreed to say that in lieu of having a bond and a 5% retainage, we'll go without the bond with a 10% retainage. They agreed to it, so it was agreed that B&B is not purchasing a builder's risk it was agreed that there will be no performance and payment bond required for this project, but as a result, it would also agree that the 10% of each invoice would be withheld as retainage, as opposed to 5% if there was a bond in place. Lastly, one of the two last things, there was a text about the contractor would be required to carry the costs for third-party tests, inspections, and approvals. This is not a requirement in the bid discussion or bid documents, and typically the cost is carried by the ownership to ensure that there is no conflict of interest between the third-party inspecting entity and the ownership. We agreed to change the language so that any tests at all, inspections, approvals of portions of work required by the contract documents or by applicable laws, statutes, ordinances, codes, rules, and regulations, or lawful orders of public authority shall be made at the appropriate time. We also agreed that any costs or any testing, inspections, or whatever would come to would be our responsibility. So if there are any tests being performed, inspections, anything that the contractor would not be paying for, we will bear that related cost. Owner shall bear all related costs of tests, inspections, and approvals performed by the independent testing laboratory or special inspector. We agree to this text. We don't believe there'll be any at all, if any, testing being done in the type of work that's being performed in then this next phase. Lastly, there was talk about our signs. So we said that we don't want any signs on the property with their, with the name of the contractor on there. So the signs that are required to be, there are signs required there for safety and compliance reasons and job coordination and permit requirements. So we would, they requested we restrict this language altogether, 22.8. We said no, or they said just use the word, add the word advertising to the, to be inserted. So basically, we agreed to the fact that it was agreed that advertising would be inserted before the word sign for this subsection. So their name would not appear on the sign whatsoever, just the required safety and other items that would need signage for. Those are the things we agreed to. They agreed to it as well. So I'd like to make a motion to accept these changes as presented so we can move forward with this contract. I'll make the motion. Can I get a second?
I'll second it.
I'll call the roll. Commissioner Sarasi?
Aye.
Commissioner Lori?
Aye.
Commissioner Ranalone?
Aye.
Commissioner Keating?
No.
Commissioner Carlo?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thanks. All right, we move to, we received a donation check from, don't mispronounce this, the Koutzes family.
Who's this?
And there's a check for $50, so I'll make a motion that the Board of Fire Commissioners accepts a donation from the Koutzes family in the amount of $50. The donation was made with no specifications or conditions, and we deposit it into the general fund.
I'll make a motion to accept it.
I'll make a second.
I'll call the roll. Commissioner Sarasi?
Aye.
Commissioner Lori?
Aye.
Commissioner Ranalone?
Aye.
Commissioner Keating?
No.
Commissioner Carlo?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Next is grant stipend. Be it resolved that the Eastchester Board of Fire Commissioners rescinds motion 50-2022 dated March 10th, 2022, that created a $1,200 monthly stipend for continuous work of the grant as assigned by the Board of Fire Commissioners for the Fire District Secretary with a start date of March 11th, 2022, effective immediately. So the grant stipend will come to an end effective immediately. I'll make the motion. I get a second?
I'll second it.
I'll call the roll. Commissioner Sarasi?
Aye.
Commissioner Lori?
Aye.
Commissioner Ranalone?
Aye.
Commissioner Keating?
Sure.
Commissioner Carlo?
Aye.
Motion carried.
In Chief's report, talks about the generators, so I make a motion here now to the Eastchester Board of Fire Commissioners authorizes Chief Tween to have repairs performed on the Chester Heights Firehouse emergency generator to remove and replace the fuel injectors and related seals and gaskets, and take a fuel sample for testing by GenServe of Plainview, New York, for a total of $6,606.62. I'll make that motion. Can I get a second?
Second.
I'll call the roll. Commissioner Sarasi?
Aye.
Commissioner Lori?
Aye.
Commissioner Ranalone?
Aye.
Commissioner Keating?
Yes.
Commissioner Carlo?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Talk about firehouse emergency generator. Be resolved that the Eastchester Board of Fire Commissioners authorizes Chief Tween to have repairs performed on the Tuckahoe Firehouse emergency generator to replace the fuel filter and fuel filter housing by GenServe of Plainview, New York, for a total of $1,176.19. I'll make that motion.
Second.
I'll call the roll. Commissioner Sarasi?
Aye.
Commissioner Lori?
Aye.
Commissioner Ranalone?
Aye.
Commissioner Keating?
Yes.
Commissioner Carlo?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Nominating certificate list, probationary firefighter. Be resolved that each of the Board of Fire Commissioners authorizes Secretary Marissa Eson Smith to schedule interviews with the candidates with a score of 90 or above that have passed the CPAT as of February 18th, 2023. I'll make that motion.
I'll
A
second it.
second. Thank you, Paul.
I'll call the roll. Commissioner Sarasi?
Aye.
Commissioner Lori?
Aye.
Commissioner Ranalone?
Aye.
Commissioner Keating?
Sure.
Commissioner Carlo?
Aye.
Motion carried. And then would the board then share their preferences later on for interview dates, times, and whatnot? Great.
Next, open house exam prep event. So I think there was talk of, we had some feedback, right, Isan, from the public about, mentioned the prep event here, but nothing else is here as far as,
Yeah, it's for discussion. The chief and I, we had a discussion, I think it was yesterday, where we were identifying a date before the actual exam to hold an open house if the board permits. The open house would be pretty much a general FAQ about the test, and then if they had any questions leading up to the exam, that's an opportunity as well. And also just to take a tour of the firehouse if they're interested. And so far, we've had about 27 people sign up for this event. So if the board permits, we could, of course, explore that and then finalize the date and move forward on the format if they agree.
So it would be like it would be a Saturday?
Yeah, we'd do it
Yeah.
on a Saturday, probably at the Bronxville Firehouse, and, we would explain, because, in the past, we've had a couple people take the job, and then after a week or two, like, resign, because, it wasn't what they thought it was. So we just want to make sure people understand what they're getting into. We'll review the process on getting hired, the written exam, then you go for the CPAT exam if you get, canvassed by the department if you score high enough. Then they go for the medical exam. We send them to Partners in Safety. They sign the releases. We do background checks. And, then what happens, you go to the academy for 18 weeks. You work Monday to Friday or Tuesday to Friday, depending if they ever get off the COVID schedule. Then once you graduate the academy, you work the 24 hours on, 72 hours off. The younger guys are probably going to have to work holidays because they don't have seniority. So just to explain the process, so, we don't waste the time of hiring somebody, buy uniforms and equipment, and then, it's not what they thought it was. So just try to enlighten people that are interested.
And the test is April, right?
No, it's February, right? February
11th.
The
11th?
CPAT is February 18th.
But the actual exam is?
The written exam
Is on
for the
February
next for the next list is this February
I
11th.
don't know, I thought it was April for some reason.
Yeah, originally Civil Service was saying they anticipated it to be April, or even closer to May, but then I guess we were all caught off guard with how
So
early it
county
was.
civil service, I guess, got told by New York State Civil Service, this is when the written test is gonna be.
Okay, all right.
So normally it was in April. For this year, they chose February 11th, which was tentatively scheduled for the CPAT test. So they actually had to reschedule the CPAT test for the week after, the Saturday following the written test, because otherwise it wouldn't have given people on the list an opportunity to take the test again, because they would be at the CPAT. So this way they can do both. They could take CPAT, and then if, they don't get hired, they can be on the next list.
Okay.
Why don't you make it sooner? Want to make it sooner?
It's not up to, oh, you mean the prep class?
Correct.
We're not really giving them, like, study, like, we can't
I
give out
understand that.
questions and
Yeah.
stuff, so,
The open house.
I mean, we just, like, pick the date, so it's,
Make it earlier?
Whatever's convenient for you guys. I mean, you're gonna be doing.
yeah, we just figured to get the word out there, through our
Yeah.
social media.
It's
and,
close to the exam, so if you get it right, that's what I mean. You give them a little more time.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe even better.
Okay, we'll do that. So whatever day we choose, like I said, we'd like to use the Bronxville Firehouse, second floor, and, allow the outside people that would be interested in attending. So,
So the board is interested in an earlier date for the open house, or?
I think it's up to the chief when he's available.
So we all understand this. This is for people who are going to take the written test?
Yes, on 2/11, right.
Okay. So it has to be done.
It's for anybody, right? It's for anybody who
Anyone's
wants to come
welcome,
from the
yeah.
public.
Oh,
and
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
There's probably some mixture of folks in that, the invitees that will be taking the test,
we might
right?
be able to do it the 28th of January. That's the week before
Yeah, probably earlier.
February, so.
Sure, I'm sure we could discuss and
Good.
just brainstorm and figure something out.
It's 2 weeks prior, it's fine, right? It's 2
Yeah.
weeks before.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
No objections?
No, that's fine. That's all we have for business tonight. Future meeting, our next meeting will be on February 9th in Town Hall here. So at that point, I'll take any comments from Local 916. Mr. Howard?
I really don't have much, just want to introduce myself. John Howard, President, Local 916. And like I said last week, I wanted to thank Commissioner Roche for all his service, congratulate Commissioner Sarasi on his election, and congratulate Assistant Chief Yazzo on his promotion. And just look forward to working together. I'm sure we're going to work well together, and I'm very excited to moving forward. So thank you. Thanks for your time.
You're welcome, Mr. Howard.
Thank you.
Any comments from the public? I don't think so. Okay, comments from commissioners?
I just want to mention one of our local residents, Frank Butchie Kaliski, who was a fireman in Scarsdale for some 30 years, passed away this weekend, and the wake is Saturday at Westchester Funeral Home. So just one of our own men, a village resident, and one of our own firemen from Scarsdale. It'd be a nice honor if we could mention him in the closing of the minutes of the meeting.
Oh, moment of silence.
Moment of silence, I'm sorry.
Sure. We have also another one too, right, Paul?
Yeah, you can talk about it, Brian, sure. You can mention it.
We just want to make, I think it'd be a great idea to have one of the residents, Mike Provenzal, pass away, and have a moment of silence for him too.
Who passed away in his family?
Michael Provenzal. Michael Provenzal.
Michael Provenzal, 2 days
Oh,
before
okay,
Christmas.
I didn't
yeah.
hear you.
As you know, he was the owner of the pizza station on Mill
Yes,
Road and
yes,
the shop,
yes.
and
Big community guy.
well respected and loved by the
Yep.
community. I spent many a October Columbus Day Festival next to his booth while he made pizza for everybody. And we were doing our hot dogs and pretzels, and so he was always good. You know, it's been a nice 3 days spending with him, and I could see why it's just a tremendous loss to the community.
He's a great guy.
Yeah, it's just so unfortunate. Mr. Ranalone or Sarasi, any comments?
Yeah, Paul.
Jamie, what's up?
Paul, I got something.
Oh, well,
Just want to go over something.
sure, guys.
All right. Just to let you know that tomorrow night, the Westchester Fire Academy is having the class fundraiser at Ron Block's from 7 to 10. I think the cost is $75. That's everything, but the proceeds will go to the Tunnels to Tower. So I think if anybody wants to go, it's probably be a good event and meet our new...
It's in White Plains on Merrick Avenue. I think I got that.
Yeah,
email.
Mamaroneck Avenue, 181 Mamaroneck Avenue in White Plains. 7 to 10, again, that's $75, I guess. Food, does that include drinks? I really don't know.
Yeah.
Everything? Everything?
Hot hors
Yeah,
d'oeuvres, appetizers,
everything?
yeah.
Yeah. All right.
That's good, thank you. Sure, Jimmy.
I just wanted to make sure, because we discussed earlier whether the board wanted to make a motion to establish the position with civil service.
Oh, yes.
For the mechanic?
So, for the mechanic, so it would be a motion to establish a part-time mechanic position with civil service with whatever hours and hourly rate you plan to set. So this way the
I
chief and
thought-
I can submit an
I
application.
thought we had that all settled on that. We just had to get the,
Just want to make sure, because
Yeah.
there was still some questions about, were we doing it, were we looking at employee
Yes.
versus independent contractor? And I think we had spoken to legal counsel, and we talked about the options there, and it sounded like if we do want to move forward with making an employee, we do have to just get the process started to submit the paperwork to civil service to establish the position. So that would normally something the board would authorize us to do. So whether that's something you want to do at this point in time.
I'll make the motion.
Do we need to also, at this point in time, indicate the hours and pay?
Yeah, we'd have to include that in the application to civil service.
But that could also change.
It could, yeah.
All right, so then I'll make a motion that we create the position.
I just made the motion.
Well, you know, but it's also, I'll talk about I want to mention the hours and the rate of pay.
Okay, all right.
So make a motion to create, it's going to be just simply called mechanic?
We don't know that, because what's going to happen is we have to draft what we anticipate the job to be, and then the chief actually today identified a few job descriptions that already exist that do seem like they would fit. But the way civil service does it is you still have to draft in your own words what you anticipate the person will do, what percentage of time, and then they will either say, okay, it's this job title that already exists, or they'll say we're creating a new job title. So I think you can just say for the position of mechanic, the official name from civil service may ultimately be different, but that's the, you
All
know.
right, so then I make the motion that we create, that we request to have the position of mechanic created with civil service at the rate of $75 an hour, not to exceed 19 hours a week on average. So if you work 10 hours one week and 20 the next, he'd still be under 19 on average, so, but on the average of 19 hours a week. So it's all in favor?
Yep.
Aye, yep.
Good, thanks, Jamie.
Okay. And then the other thing with respect to the nominating list that's outstanding. So we know the CPAT is scheduled for February 18th. So after that point in time, we'll know the full complement of eligible employees, right? So we'll know who's passed the exam. If everybody was to pass, I think we looked at it today, there would be 40 potential candidates with a score of 90 or above. Does the board have any parameters for how you want to schedule the interviews? Are you planning to interview everybody? Do you want to somehow narrow it down? Because if you're authorizing her to schedule the interviews. We should just know what specifically the board wants to do.
Can we do what we did the last time and have each candidate send their resume in and have the chief go over it and, cross out the names on each one and, come back with, his recommendations or whatever on each?
Yeah, so we do like the blind resumes, but how many do you want me to whittle it down to? 20, 10, 30? What's the number you're looking for?
We'll have 5 vacant
Right.
spots by the time the academy starts. We do have 4 candidates with a score of 95, so you likely would need to interview, I would expect you would interview all 4. That's your choice, but you have to choose from the 95s for at least the first 2 spots before you get to the 90s. So you may want to say, all the 95s and then X amount of the 90s. Might be a way to do it.
So there are, 35 90s?
36, yeah.
36?
And again, that's assuming they all pass. We don't know that yet, but that's the population we're talking about.
Right,
They don't last that long. We should just do them all.
yeah.
They don't take more than 10 or 15 minutes, so do them all.
But do we want to do it like we did the last time and have the chief go over the resumes?
You could probably go through the whole, everyone, so everybody gets a fair look, and
Yeah, if you're not gonna whittle them down, then,
Okay.
go through everyone.
Okay.
It doesn't take that long.
I don't need to review them if you're gonna interview all
That's right.
Okay.
All right,
36 candidates.
Forgot to congratulate Captain Olivier. Just need to say that on record. Congratulate Captain Olivier.
I was gonna mention that to you.
Bet somebody caught that.
It was in my report.
all right, so I make a motion to adjourn, and then after we adjourn, we'll have a moment of silence for Mr. Kaliski and Mr. Provenzal. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Good. All right, thanks, everybody.